Welcome to Ren Behind the Practice. I'm Sophie Campisi. I'm a holistic business strategist and startup expert, and I spend a lot of my time in conversation with practitioners, coaches, and healers about the behind the scenes of their businesses. What I started noticing is that some of the most honest, important conversations about building a practice were happening quietly, one-on-one, behind the scenes, and often in isolation. Most practitioners are incredibly skilled at the work they do with their clients, but very few of us were ever taught or trained in how to build a successful startup business. And suddenly we've been left to figure it out on our own. This podcast exists to bring those conversations forward, the dreams, the uncertainty, the highs and lows, the recalibrations, and the messy middle. My hope is that by normalizing these conversations, we can soften the stigma, feel less alone, and start closing the gaps together. Today's guest is Katherine Najera. Katherine is a psychic medium, energy healer, coach, and strategist who has gone from Fortune 500 consulting to combining strategy with soul. Katherine, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up and having this conversation with me today.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm so excited to be here. Also, I love your podcast voice.
Thank you. Before we look behind the scenes today, can you share with us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yes. So I've been a strategist basically my entire career, and I love that side of me. I love how my brain automatically thinks that way. And I automatically see a problem and I could think of so many solutions. Okay. And I love the strategy world. I love the consulting world. And I started to uncover my gifts. Okay. It was really, I think the main trigger was actually when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. That was the main thing where everything started to be like, oh, snap, this is real. I don't know if we could curse. So, oh, snap, this is real. And at that point, I was like a little bit scared, I have to be honest, about coming out with my gifts. And I held back. And I focused mostly on what am I good at, which is strategy. And that's all I was doing. Okay. And after a while, I was like, I I don't like this anymore. Like there's like this feeling that you get that it's like, I'm good at this, but this is not what I'm meant to do. And I started doing readings secretly. I would post on Facebook groups anonymously and ask like, oh, who would be interested in a reading and things like that. And people would comment and then I would send them the reading. And I was doing it over and over and over again. And I was like, wow, I'm actually really good at this. I was like boosting my confidence at the same time. And I also started diving deeper into it. I worked with a shaman. I got certified in Reiki. I learned more about shamanism, Qigong, and I really loved it. I loved learning about that and diving into that space. And I had stepped away from business after having pregnant with my second and after giving birth, just to be like, what am I doing in terms of business? I was doing strategy and I was doing readings behind the scenes, but like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I know I'm meant to do something and my purpose is related to empowering people, but how am I supposed to empower people? And I was getting a lot of readings at the end of, we're in 2026. At the end of 2025, I was getting a lot of readings and people were like, I kept repeating the phrase, be visible, be visible. And I'm like, WTF, what does that mean? What do you mean be visible? I am visible. And they were like, you have to learn how to balance your sides and your sides that you are like having opposing. And it wasn't clicking for me. And I'm like, this is so annoying. What are you talking about? And Sophie, I don't know what to tell you besides like one day this year, it literally came to me and I was like, I'm going to combine everything. I'm going to combine all of my gifts into one. And they're not going to be separate sides of me anymore. And that's essentially how I came up with my business, which is combining all of these gifts to help women who want to expand themselves, who also feel that calling that it's like, I'm grateful for my life. I like my life and there's more. And I'm trying to achieve that next step. And I'm supporting them because I'm doing the readings, which is giving them that insight that they need. The insight that honestly, sometimes they already know, right? It's more of like that validation for them. And then it's like all of that information, but then we heal the common blocks that happen over and over again. So we are attempting to break the pattern, essentially. And then I do coaching with strategy for them. So then they are actually taking action steps. And it's not like, hey, I'm just going to journal. No, this is exactly what I'm going to do moving forward so I could move the needle at least 1%, a little bit at a time.
When did you shift from being like, did your shift from being an employee to being an entrepreneur or a solopreneur happen all at the same time? Or had you already been made that shift and you were doing consulting as a solopreneur before and then you just shifted your work?
Yes, thank you for asking that. No, I want to be super candid with everyone. No, I still have my 9 to 5, and my 9 to 5 is coaching. So I do that as a full-time job. My husband is a software engineer. So together, financially, we still have that stability. So with my business, I get to play around because I'm not acting from a place of being desperate with money. And also, we have children. We have 2 babies at home. So for us, it's very important to make sure like we have some sort of stability. And that's not to say that a 9 to 5 is stable because hello, we all know it's not. But as we transition to making the income that we want from all of our businesses, we still have that cushion right now.
Totally. It's such a big thing that is not talked about nearly enough, especially for people who want to leave a corporate setting or they have a job and and they're so passionate about their own path of entrepreneurship as a coach, a healer, a practitioner of some sort, or a combination, which usually it is, a combination of so many things. And it's not talked about nearly enough. Don't quit your job yet.
I want to call this out because I think this is very important. And I think nowadays it's glamorized to quit your job. And the reality is that we live in this 3D world, right? And we have to also buy to some of the laws of this 3D world. And what I did do, I will say, is that once I left consulting for these big companies, Fortune 500 companies, I found a job at a nonprofit doing coaching. So it wasn't the step from like, hey, Fortune 500 to my own business full time, but it's like a baby step, right? And now I'm doing coaching, which doesn't drain my soul. I love it. And I get to enjoy my 9 to 5 and work on my business from a place of abundance and not a place from or mindset of scarcity. And I think that's very important.
It's so important, especially in the work that I do. As a startup expert, I know the steps that it takes to start a startup. And even if you have them all and you nail them, it's still going to take time because the way to build a sustainable business is to nurture the startup phase. If you skip any steps at the beginning, your business actually will not grow long term. And I think that that's part of what's contributing to so many people wanting to skip steps or just try something and it's not working and they're going to try something else or it's not because they're not well meaning. Of course they are, but they need to pay their bills. Like they're trying to figure it out and it brings out this, scarcity mindset or just normal, reasonable, realistic, biological phenomenon of
Exactly.
I need to pay my bills or I have kids or I have other responsibilities and how am I going to do it? Oh, I need to XYZ or this isn't working, so let me try this. And unfortunately, part of what that phenomenon brings forward will work directly against actually what is the most vital and important parts of building the business, which is nurturing the startup phase, nailing it in the startup phase, and then growing. But because people think, well, I don't have time, so I'm just going to start growing. I'm going to try to grow. Well, you can't grow unless you've nailed the startup phase, unless you've nailed what I call offer market match, product market fit. You find the sweet spot, your growth and success is essentially inevitable once you get to that point. But unless you get to that point, anything that you do to try to grow your business is actually not going to work. So it's actually wasted time, money, energy, and resources. But our scarcity, normal, and
Yes.
reasonable brings us to think, oh, I just need to grow faster. That will take too long and it just won't work. So it gets us into this unfortunate like hamster wheel of the startup graveyard. Honestly, it brings people straight to the startup graveyard, and lots of people will end up needing to shift or not be able to continue or be unhappy or just like really struggling with navigating the business side because of this.
Well, here's the thing is that I think we're in an age where like everyone wants results now with in every aspect of their life, whether it's dating, whether it's health, anything you see all of these quick fixes, all of these like, this is the magic solution. This is the thing. And will it get you there? Maybe. Is it sustainable long term? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And we could talk about that, for hours, but you see that. You see that everywhere.
The DIY social media culture right now is really negatively impacting, I'll speak on behalf of our industry, solopreneurs, mission-driven service providers, coaches, healers, practitioners. It is really negatively impacting us on lots of levels. One, I think it's confusing, it's overwhelming, it's having people take lots of action that isn't actually grounded. They're not actually getting a diagnosis, so their business isn't working, but no one's diagnosing them. They're just saying, try this, with skipping that really vital, like, wait, you wouldn't bring your car into the shop because it's not working. Just go fix stuff. No, you would absolutely say, hey, tell me the exact problems first before I pay you to spend lots of time, money, resources, and energy on fixing my car. Then they're gonna fix everything. Of course, they'll try things and they'll fix it, whatever. You're gonna be the one that pays the bill. That's actually what's happening to people in this business building. We're just not seeing it that way. So going back to the overwhelm, the social media DIY landscape, that it's overwhelming for people. It's actually costing them more. They're skipping diagnostic phase. They aren't getting grounded stuff, but it's also like a mind F. Like it really is, because so many people are like, anyone can have a business. You can make 20K months in 7 days. No, no, it's not possible to do it in
It's
7 days.
toxic. It is
It's not.
toxic.
It's not possible. And also it's confusing because now people think, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be doing that. Everyone else can do that. So I'm doing something wrong. Like I must be making a mistake or I'm missing the mark. And it's just a lot of, it's unfortunate, but everything that you're saying, yes. And having your job, it is in that the fact that you say that you can build from abundance, it's absolutely true. And I would add to that, it gives you the space and time to nurture the things that really matter, because you can give it the space and time. Because if you nail the startup phase, your success long-term is actually inevitable. Success is inevitable and you can create whatever type of business you want in the long run. But if you don't nail it and you don't have the time and space to allow that to nurture and to validate all the things that you need to validate before going into growth phase, you'll never actually grow. And can't think of the word I'm thinking, but it's counterintuitive, but it's actually what's needed.
I agree with you 100%.
When you look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months, what goals do you have for your work and for your business?
I want the right woman to find this business. I want to empower these women. I want to fill my containers with women who are excited, with women who are maybe a little bit nervous, but with women who want more. And I want my containers to go deep. And that's why I'm focusing a lot on one-on-one right now. It's not going to be a group container, it's one-on-one work. I want to go deep with these women. Right now, my focus is not on the numbers or doing like these huge, lead magnets where are like thousands of people. Right now, I really want to go deep with individuals on a soul level, like get to know them, empower their lives, change their realities. And my goal is to be able to do that for, I would say, by the end of 2026, for 6 women. That's my goal.
What do you think it's going to take to get to that 6 women by the end of the year, like specifically? Do you feel like you're guessing, or do you feel like you have a good idea of what's it going to take?
I feel like it's a few different things. One, it has to do with marketing in the right spaces and not talking to everyone just to get attention. Because I think that's very easy to get distracted and be like, oh, I have to be in all of these groups. I have to talk to all of these people. So I think it's really focusing more on that. And that means also thinking about the type of content that I'm producing. Right now, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, right? But I've started to think about more long form content, like perhaps YouTube or things where I get to dive deeper and people get to experience that. So that's one thing that I'm thinking about. The other thing that I'm thinking about is more about framing and positioning. In a business like this, where the results are very tailored to each individual, where it's not it's not like, hey, I'm going to be your gym trainer and we're going to focus on losing 5 pounds, right? And the result isn't as tangible. I don't like the word tangible, as concrete. No, I don't like that word either.
Harder to take a before and after picture.
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Exactly. Yeah, it's a little bit harder to communicate and working more on my messaging to make sure that people understand what is the benefit of this? What are they actually getting from this? Okay. And talking to them in that level so they see the importance of what's happening. And then I would say the third thing that I still need to work on would be probably honestly this, like even like having more connections that are not like, hey, I'm trying to sell you something. It's like I'm trying to connect with you and having more of these conversations because I learn from your successes and your failures, and you learn from mine. And even that, like, just opens my mind. It like gives me ideas for brainstorming and things like that. It's like it initiates a fire. So I think those are my main three things that I'm going to be working on.
Yeah, I mean, your gut is bringing you absolutely to the right places with some of those, especially like you said, one of the things that I would say, I tell people all the time on this is the most important thing, number one most important thing during the startup. So if we think of business in three phases, you have your startup phase, your growth phase, your maturity phase. Most people who are employees who have had jobs, who have been successful in corporate, are working for a business that's in the maturity phase. They've already gone through, they're in the last phase, and then they'll start entrepreneurship and be like, God, I was the best at this and I was so successful and now I can't figure this out. It's like because you truly can't compare. It's like comparing apples to oranges. The startup phase to being an amazing employee and doing great at your job for a business that's already in maturity phase, certainly growth, but probably maturity. Those businesses have already navigated the startup phase. They found product market fit probably decades ago. They know exactly who their clients are, exactly what service they provide, and they've been doing it year after year and usually decade after decade. And it's incomparable to what it is to be navigating the startup. So in the startup phase, which all of us are in generally, finding your people and being able to find them in abundance to have conversations with them is absolutely the number one most important thing that you can do. Why goes back to the second thing that you mentioned. Because the best way to solve the messaging puzzle is to talk to your people. They have all of the answers. And you aren't going to find your what I call zone of impact. Some people might call it niche or whatever you want to call it. You aren't going to nail it just on your own. You're going to have an idea. Like, for instance, I want to work with this type of women, and these are some of the things they have in common. Well, the way to nail it long term, like through this phase, is to just start talking. They will have the answers. You'll talk to one, you'll be like, okay, that's unique. I like that aspect. That's my person. Or I'm realizing that I thought this was the problem and I'm not really sure. And then you talk. The answers will come in conversation. And then the same thing goes in then when you start what I call, and I work with people, the messaging blueprint. The same thing is what guides that whole process. But what is fundamental to every single one of those phases in the startup phase is talking to people, talking to real people, having real conversations with real people with real problems who are in your target market. They have the answers. That's how one of the biggest problems that we face is bridging the gap of our brilliance and our gifts back to the technical term, real market demand. But the conversational term is like real people, real problems. Where we were at some point, now we've become experts. We've gone deep into the work. And ironically, it can take us further from that starting point. So we need to be able to work that backward. How? Having conversations, be deeply connected with people, connect with them deeply. I teach people how to stop building in isolation and start building in connection. It is the answer to completely nailing this whole thing, is the thing that we're actually all very good at and we're actually craving: deep, authentic connection with real people, solving people's problems, being a witness to them, seeing them, feeling them, hearing them, all of those things. So everything that you're saying, yes, I mean, that is, finding people, talking to people, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or do long form, what will matter is, what are your people craving? Like, they'll tell you, where are they? If you can't find them on Instagram, all good. You just need to go find where they are.
Yeah.
Facebook's great. Great. Lean in there. That's not hot. Then go find, you get it. But that's, everything that you said. Absolutely. I mean, those are all the things that are ingredients to really navigating the startup process. There is no, anyone that's trying to sell you a one size fits all or an overnight solution to building a startup, red flag. It's not possible, but you can understand the steps, and then you have to give it time and get on the court and really do the work. And it's, for us, building the types of businesses that we're building, it's usually super satisfying because it's the stuff that we're so good at already, right? Talking to people, being with people, using our brilliance with empathy and vision and seeing and, channeling, and all the stuff that we have actually like makes us brilliant at the startup phase. We just like weren't really taught how to do it. But yeah, everything that you're saying is, yeah. Before I go on to the next question, do you have anything you want to say or add to that?
No, I think everything that you said is spot on. The maybe the one thing that I'll add is that connection phase. Because I have a 9 to 5, I can offer these free sessions where like I'm giving them a taste of what I do, and I'm at the same time not just serving them but getting information for myself, right? Getting ideas, hearing their words of how they phrase their problems. And that is a key difference because that really truly helps me connect with them on a deeper level. And I know that's not the case for everyone, and I'm very blessed to like be able to do both at the same time. But I think even for people that don't have a 9 to 5 and are solely working on their business, still being intentional about doing that connection and doing sessions where they're, maybe if it's in a group, but honestly, that one-on-one is sacred. That's where you get like that gold information.
1,000%. And what you're saying, it's one of the things that there's so many people out there like, don't drop your price, like that you're selling yourself short. And that is relevant, but usually only if you've already nailed product market fit and you've nailed your sweet spot. Like, you can then have those types of conversations. But in the beginning, it is all about exactly what you just said. Real connection, having conversations, because you're looking for data, you're looking for information. You are in wonder and in curiosity of what's possible. But until you've nailed, again, what I call offer market match, product market fit, the most valuable thing is data. The most valuable thing is data. And so what you're saying, you have the ability to offer free sessions. That is so huge, because if you know what you're looking for is information and data so that you can nail it long term, you don't lose dignity thinking, oh, I'm selling myself short. No, because you're getting the most valuable thing you could possibly get, which is real time with real people, getting real data and real feedback. And of course, when we get into the nuances of the startup phase, like there is a lever with like payment and whatever when you're getting there. But at the beginning, like that's so valuable. I'll drop my price all the time if I'm validating an offer, because if my price isn't right, I don't know that until I can actually get in with people. So I'll drop the lever on my price all the time because I actually get way more value from getting more information, learning about that offer, then working it backwards eventually. But everything that you're saying, absolutely, it's so true, and it's the most important thing, and it's not talked about enough. Again, we're in this phase of social collective conversation where there's so much pressure that is ungrounded and not being diagnosed. Like, don't sell yourself short. You need to have high prices. You need to have high ticket. And
Yeah.
unless you can validate that, it's not true. The most important thing you can actually do is spend time with people. Whatever you need to do that at the beginning is the most valuable thing you can do with your time.
And that way people could realize that you're also authentic. I think in this day and age where like social media is what it is, people also crave that. They crave authenticity. They crave like realness. And you get that during those one-on-one conversations.
Trust building.
Yes.
The best way to build trust. And we're overemphasizing often, and this has come up in so many of my conversations with people on this podcast specifically, and all of the time, we're overemphasizing the value of content actually, and we're undervaluing the one-on-one connection in general for so many levers, but first and foremost for exactly what you just said. But then on the business side, it's so hard to build trust through a piece of content that you have no idea where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And usually content is way more valuable later on. And there's a time and place for it at the beginning, absolutely no doubt. Trust building, people want to see you. They want to be able to see how you are in long form. They want to see a clip of you. Like, that's today's consumer. But when it actually comes to really building trust, content is a really, really hard place to build trust, especially now with AI and all the stuff that's going to change. I think that's going to continue to change drastically over the next 12 months. So yeah, what you're saying, it's so true, because at the end of the day, fundamental to all of business building, business success, business longevity is trust building. Every business is going to be talking about that. You need to build trust at a certain point, the quality of the product, of course. But at the beginning, it's actually trust that matters more than quality of product. And the fun thing is, everyone that I talk to, everyone that I work with, I never have a question how good they are at the work that they do. That's actually rarely, if ever, a reason that someone's business isn't growing. Has nothing to do with that. It's these other things, and trust is so important. What feels hardest about, is there anything that feels hardest or feels heavier than it should, or most unclear, most uncertain when you think about getting to those 6 clients? Anything that feels especially unclear, uncertain?
Well, the first part of your question was more about like what feels, I guess, hard, right? You said at first, overwhelming. And I would say not falling into the content trap. That's hard, right? Where there's all of this pressure to just produce. But as someone whose business is very spiritual, right? I'm not a machine. And what I do is with purpose and with intention. So not falling into that trap is going to be very crucial. And that way I can prioritize those conversations, because when you think about it, the number 6 is not a high number. It's not a large number, right? And I have 2 choices: only focus on content or really focus on those connections. And I think that's the big thing, is prioritizing that and being mindful of that, and not getting distracted with all of the ads of like, you need to be producing now this way, or this hook, focus on this hook. This is the key to everything. Okay. And always focusing on like, well, how do I keep someone's attention? Right. Very, and thinking that is the key to growing my business. Okay. And it's, especially with all of these like people and webinars and whatnot, and all of this information, this age of information is, could be very overwhelming sometimes. So it's making sure that I'm intentional with my steps and my next steps, which is building more connection and not getting distracted by all the noise, which is always there.
Yeah, you're absolutely, even being aware of that and acknowledging that point now is so huge. Being aware of, I do not want to get caught into this content trap because it's like the low hanging fruit. It
Hmm.
really is.
It really is.
And everyone out there online that's profiting from that is happy to continue to say that. But one of the things for people who've listened to a lot of my episodes, they've probably heard me say, and I will continue to say it, do not be afraid to ask questions to people before you engage with them as a coach or as a business consultant or someone that's selling you a service saying, if you try this type of online strategy or social media strategy, don't be afraid to ask them questions about real results that people are getting. What actually will this bring me? How have your clients succeeded in the past? Do you have clients just like me? How has that worked? You want to know what phase of business, all of these types of things. Don't be afraid to ask, because one of the biggest things, and I've already said it on in this episode that's going on, is there is a lot of services being provided without the diagnosis first. And if someone's not able to diagnose your problem, just be wary. It's not to say that they're not well intentioned. In my experience, most, if not all people are, at least the ones that I come across, it's just you wouldn't bring your car into the shop if it was having a problem and let someone work on it without first diagnosing where the problem is. And we're doing that with our businesses. And it's just causing like a frenzy of confusion, overwhelm, a lot of wasted time, money, resources, and energy. And even on the service provider side, again, most people just don't know these distinctions. And so they're not aware of it. But then their results are also not as good, right? If they're not really clear on the diagnosis themselves, then their results, if they start working with someone, they're not able to get the results. It's usually for this. So, everything that you're saying, yes. And for you, for anyone that's listening, don't be afraid to ask questions, ask these types of questions. If someone doesn't know them, it's fine. You're not trying to trick people, but let's just say like, let's raise the bar altogether by making sure someone knows exactly what your problem is first and is able to say, like, yeah, these are the types of results that I can't, nothing is guaranteed, but have they done it with lots of people just like you with your same exact problem? They can provide this type of result. Like, we need to be raising the bar a little bit because it is kind of chaotic out there. And the social media growth myth, what you just said, this content trap, it's like the low hanging fruit, like I've already said many times, and especially today, it does not solve fundamental business problems.
It really doesn't.
And it sucks. You already said this too. Like, it sucks for us to do it. It can be such a drain because it's never ending. And very few of us like love doing it on top of that. So like, if it's already something that we don't like love doing, and then we're doing it thinking it's going to produce some sort of result or we're going to get more clients from content, like, it's actually quite a myth. It's very rare cases for people at the very beginning that you're going to get clients from content. It it just doesn't really happen.
Yeah. In my experience, the people who have become paid clients, it's because I have formed a connection with them.
1,000%. And it's going to keep happening that way until you hit a point, and then you can validate growth later on. But at the beginning, it's not going to come from that. Last question today. If you could wave a magic wand and have one thing solved or fixed for you in your building process, what would it be?
I don't know if this is the answer that I would say if you asked me this question yesterday or tomorrow, but this is the one that's coming to me now. So I'm going to go with this one. I think it would actually be my ego. And it would be like not letting my ego get in the way of me putting myself out there more to do even more connections and more one-on-ones and more conversations, even if I don't know what the outcome of the conversation is, because I shouldn't be going there with like, oh, an outcome, right? It's not a transactional thing. And like letting, like quieting my ego a little bit and just focusing on like genuine connection. And I think that would really make the biggest difference for me. And sometimes ego is loud and ego is like, no, don't do that. You should be focusing on this instead. And yeah, I think that would be my magic wand right now.
Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today to have this conversation. And for those of you who are listening, if any part of this resonated, you're in the right place, please reach out. I want to hear from you. And if you want to reach Katherine directly, the link to her website and program is in the show notes. Thank you again, Katherine, and to everyone else. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you for the next episode of Ren Behind the Practice.